Hey, you know what sucks? Vacuum cleaners. But also writer's block, that's what we're talking about today. I've got 5 tips and tricks that I've come up with over the course of the past few years of my life to try and get around writer's block. I've been writing since I was about 5 years old. I was writing short stories, and then as I sort of transitioned into the film industry, I started writing more scripts for short films and freelance projects. I wouldn't call myself a professional writer by any stretch of the imagination, but these are 5 little sort of tips and tricks that I've used to help me in certain situations where I've just been sat staring at a blank computer, just wondering what the hell to type next. Obviously, we all respond differently to different stimuli, so there's no guarantee that these 5 things will definitely help you get around writer's block, but hopefully at least one of them will resonate with you and help you to at least temporarily get through that block so that you can push through and start writing at least a scene or 2 within the script that you're working on at the moment. So without further ado, let's jump straight into tip number 1, which is drink alcohol. That's a joke, don't do that, it doesn't work, I've tried. No, the actual tip number 1 is to write a completely random scene. And by that I mean, if you've got just a random scene idea in your head, it doesn't matter if it's not the beginning of a script, it doesn't matter if it's the end of the script, just write that scene, write that out as best you can, and that will start to get the creative juices flowing. You never know, if you write the scene that might come in perhaps in the second act of a script, that might then inspire you to write the first act or to write the third act. There's certain things within that writing process that might make something click. You might realize something about the characters that you're writing about, and that might help you to develop them further in earlier or later scenes that you were struggling with. It doesn't matter if the scene's completely disconnected from the script that you're trying to write entirely. It's just about getting that sort of creative process flowing so that you can then hopefully transition from that into the scene that it is that you're trying to tackle, that you're having trouble with at that moment in time. Tip number 2 is to watch at least one movie that kind of has at least one link to your film, and by that it can literally be any connection that you can kind of fathom. For example, I watched 10 Cloverfield Lane in the cinema, and when I came back home from it, I sat down and I wrote a 30-page script in one sitting. No, it wasn't perfect by any means, but it was something to do with the kind of the claustrophobic, isolated feel of 10 Cloverfield Lane, the fact that it just centered mostly around these 3 main characters that then inspired me to write my own script that centered around 3 main characters trapped in one location. Nothing to do with 10 Cloverfield Lane really, apart from having those 3 characters trapped in one place, but that was just the only connection I needed to get my brain thinking in the right way and allow me to write a brand new script, which I didn't know I was going to write before I went and saw that film. So I definitely recommend, if you're looking to write a particular kind of script, watch a film that has at least one thing to do with that script that you're trying to write, and maybe that'll help push you in the right direction. Tip number 3 is to take some time off. You're probably thinking, well, no, I actually want to write, I don't want to sit and do nothing. But sometimes you just really aren't in the mood to write, and no matter how long you sit and stare at something, it's just not going to work. Obviously, don't use this as an excuse to procrastinate on it. The idea of taking a break, you have to be honest with yourself and ask yourself, do I need this break? An example for me would be, I was watching a lot of video essay type videos on YouTube. I'm sure if you're like me and watching this video, you might do the same. But the fact is, you can watch a lot of these video essays and take on all these ideas, and it can be a bit overwhelming. There's a lot of advice out there for how to write a good scene, how to write a good character, how to write a good script, and it can be very overwhelming, especially for sort of new amateur writers, to take all of that on board and actually implement that. But even professional writers don't implement all of those points straight away. Obviously, they have a good understanding of it, they have a good foundation, but it's very likely that they'll still do draft after draft after draft. And if you saw the first drafts of a lot of professional writers' work, it would probably not be that different to your own first drafts in many respects. So just give yourself a break and try and just distance yourself from watching video essays specifically, just so that you can kind of give yourself space to breathe and just follow your own instincts to begin with when you do come back to tackle the scene, so that you're not flooded with loads of other people's ideas and advice. Just try and focus on your own ideas, go with your instincts, and then you can always refine it further down the line. Tip number 4 is to listen to some music. This might not work for everyone. As I say, this is my personal list, but I tend to find it useful sometimes. If I'm trying to capture a certain emotion within a scene that I'm struggling to get onto the page, I'll listen to some music that kind of evokes that emotion, and that will then allow me sometimes to inject that into the scene that I'm writing. It'll spark something in my brain that'll just allow me to kind of better convey the message and the emotions that I'm trying to get across at that particular moment. It can be any song, obviously. If there's a song that you enjoy, that can be good too, but try and find a track that really does kind of resonate with the theme, or at least the tone that you're going for. Sometimes film scores or video game soundtracks can be a really good soundtrack to have in the background whilst you're typing out your scene. And tip number 5, the final tip, is just to write some notes instead. If you're struggling to write a fully fledged scene, just jot down some notes. It's better to write something than nothing. And if you just make some notes, perhaps even just a bullet point list of certain things about the character, or certain things about the plot, or different things about even the location, just jot down some bullet points about the script that you're trying to write, and then in doing that you might actually inspire yourself to write a particular scene, or to go further into a particular note and start developing a character more. It might just inspire you in general to write something completely different, but the point is that you've written something, you've used the creative side of your brain, and when you come back to write again, you've then got some notes that you can hopefully work off and might give you that push you need the next time to begin that scene that you were struggling on in the first place. So those are my 5 tips and tricks. As I say, they might not all work for you. Hopefully at least one of them will resonate with you. There's no right or wrong way to get around writer's block, but these are just 5 things that I have used over the years since I was quite young, just to give me that little push. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but it's better than just sitting there and staring at the blank page. So try these out, let me know if it's helped you. Let me know some of your own tips and tricks in the comments, because God knows I could use them. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. Good luck with the writing, and we'll see you again in the next one.